Hello everyone, welcome to AWS Data Engineering Training Program. As part of this training, in the last two classes, we talked about storage part, S3, simple storage solution, where we can store our data, where different storage options are available, different security options are available like versioning and you can say encryption and much more. But a project, any data engineering project, right? It needs two things. One is storage and another one is processing, because our purpose of the project is not only storing the data. The purpose is that you will be doing some analytics, you will be processing the data, you will be executing some jobs and generating some statistics which will ultimately help your business to move in the right direction. That means you will get input data which is suppose stored on S3. You need to process that, you need to read it, you need to process and generate some output. And then as far as output is concerned, you can write it back on the S3. That you can do, so that you don't have to keep your server running 24 by 7. Because if you are maintaining your data on hard disk of server, that's not a good idea. Because first of all, hard disk of the server may have some limited storage, like 500 GB, 1 terabyte, not beyond that. But on, if I talk about S3, there is no limit. You can store as much of data as you want. That's one benefit. Another benefit is server is responsible only for processing the data. That means in the entire day, 24 hours, if you just need to execute your job only for 2 hours, then that's all. Start your server, run your job for 2 hours, and then stop your server. You don't need to pay for 24 hours. You will be paying only for those 2 hours. That's also one of the benefit. So today's class is completely dedicated for the processing service, which is in simple, in short term we call it as EC2. That stands for Elastic Compute Cloud. So how to launch our server, what are the different settings in that, how to log in into that, all these things we will be exploring today. Okay, so let's start the class with the agenda. So the agenda for today's class is overview of EC2 service, EC2 instance types, launch your first EC2 instance, configure network settings, key pair for EC2 instance, connect to EC2 instance, and EC2 instance commands overview. This is the basic, you can say, concept of EC2 which we'll be exploring today. In tomorrow's class, we'll be exploring more advanced topics about EC2. Okay, so let's start with the first one, that is EC2 instance type. If you remember, when we were talking about S3, we talked about S3 storage classes. Depending upon your different type of requirement, your client is looking for more data availability or more data security or more budget friendly options. We had a different type of options, right? Similarly, when it comes to server, when it comes to processing power, it again, there are a lot of options available. You can see different categories. The first category is general purpose, and there are different names like A1, T3, T2, M4, M5, M5A, M5N. First of all, you don't have to remember all this thing. That's not required. When you launch the system, it will display the name over there, and along with the name, it will display the configuration as well. Configuration is nothing but how much of hard disk and how much of RAM. That's the configuration. So you can choose at runtime like which instance type you want to go with. Now for different type of, this is general purpose, the first category. Now for other specific type of requirement, we have different categories. Like this one is compute optimized. That simply means if your job, if your project is more about a lot of calculation, more of compute, more of CPU you need. Suppose you are doing very heavy computation, suppose machine learning, that needs a very heavy computation. In that case, you can choose compute optimized system, and that will make your job, you can say, completing faster. Although you can go with general purpose also, but if you go with a specific one, it can make your day to day work much easier. You can notice one thing: the compute optimized system are starting with C. That stands for like compute. The next one is memory optimized. Memory means RAM, and that's why you notice that most of them are starting with R4, R6, R5, R5A, and all that stuff. In case you need a lot of RAM, specifically if Spark job is something which we will be exploring in our training program in the last week. Spark is a data distributed data processing technology, and which needs a lot of RAM, because it strives to manipulate your data within the memory, and that's make it faster. So in case you are looking, your job is something which needs more RAM, you can go with memory optimized system. Another category is storage optimized. Sometimes your calculation is not much, but you are doing reading and writing the data very frequently. Read and write operation. You are more dealing with storage. In that case, you can go with storage optimized system. And one more is there, accelerated computing. Accelerated computing is used mainly for, like you can say, online gaming, where multiplayer game, multiple players are playing at the same time, and we need a lot of compute power and everything. In that case, we go with accelerated computing. So just like in S3, we talked about a lot of storage classes, but ultimately at the end we said that okay, you can simply go with standard class. Same thing is here. I'm working on AWS from last 7 years. I know about all the instance type, but to be frank, I have till now only used general purpose instance type. In one of the POC, when we were doing some machine learning POC, we used compute optimized. Otherwise, 90% of my work we are always doing on general purpose instance type. But you should be aware, if someone is asking you, your client, your uh, there is some discussion going on, technical discussion going on, someone is saying that I'm running a heavy computation and it's taking too much time, what should I do? Then first thing which should come into your mind is like, what type of instance you are using, because we have different instance type available as per different type of workload, different type of projects requirement, and accordingly we can choose that. Okay. So, in case you're having any doubt on this slide, you can ask. Otherwise, we are ready to launch our first instance. So, let me quickly log in into my AWS account.
Neeraj, one question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. So, as a data engineer, like in real time, do will we be creating anything related to these EC2 instances, or
Absolutely. That's absolutely a developer's responsibility. Launching a server, launching, in the previous class, we talked about storage. So, creating a bucket, uploading some data, creating the folders, and now today's class is launching a server. That's completely developer's responsibility only.
oh, okay. So, as a part of data engineer, we need to decide like which what storage policies that we
Hmm.
need to apply for S3, all those things.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thanks.
So I'm searching for EC2, and you can see that it says virtual servers in the cloud. Although the name is like not a very common name, EC2 Elastic Compute Cloud, but in simple words, it's nothing but a remote server. The server will be launched for you. It is physically located somewhere in some data center, and you will get access to it. So from your system, you can directly log in into that and you can use it. That's the ultimate purpose. And you can launch as many system as you want and whatever configuration you want. That's why in the introduction class, when we started our batch, we were talking about that companies are not interested in buying buying the hardware, because buying hardware is like putting a lot of money in the project, and suppose it's a small POC which will finish after 1 month, then what to do with that hardware? And moreover, you need a separate maintenance team also, which will be looking into that hardware stuff and all. So in order to avoid all these expenses, if you simply going with the cloud, as per your demand on runtime, within few minutes they will make these servers ready for you. And the good part is, as a developer, you can directly start the development, maintenance work, any security patches, any cyber attack, any safety security, everything will be taken care by AWS. Okay. So without any further delay, let's launch our first server. Okay, so on the left side, you can see that there's the option of instances. You can click on that. It will display if any instance is already available. It may be available from my previous batch.